being a good partner and leading companies that are even tiny. I had seen this a lot in our industry in that basically they came to me and capped my compensation package, and I decided that's not a good way to grow a business if top people have caps. Smaller clients needing help, and while they can't afford a big price tag, or there isn't as much value we're creating for that big price tag, there's ways of us still working with smaller client that need our help, and we can still add value on certain things. So those are the two things that really got me going and thinking, starting it off. They were looking to buy $6 million business. Historically, the fee structure to the due diligence around that would not have made sense.
Hey, welcome back to the Ops Edge. This is the show where SaaS growth leaders, operators, and investors cut through the noise, focus on what actually drives results. I'm your host, Marc Faseler, co-founder of Solvanta AI, and today I'm joined with Jeff Johnsen, president of Xylinx, a high-touch advisory firm helping startups, PE firms, family offices unlock growth through financial clarity and strategic insight. Today we're diving into how CFOs are evolving, what financial gatekeepers, from financial gatekeepers to strategic storytellers. If you're leading through board pressure, transparency demands, or investor expectations, this episode will help you adapt and thrive. Jeff, great to have you on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get rolling, where are you calling in from?
I'm from Kansas City,
Kansas City.
Missouri, on the Kansas side.
Right on. So it's all over there for all your info that you're a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Is that
Yes. Yep.
yeah?
I've been a season ticket holder for about 22 years. And yeah, I don't think you can live in the city unless you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's like boom, boom, boom. I feel like every game they're involved in it and they're going, and
Yeah.
then you know, it's
And it's a
always
big sports town. Kansas City is a big sports town too. So it just makes it a little bit more fun.
right on. Well, that's cool. I
Yeah.
hope it's not like the stock market. It's like
Yeah,
it always it goes up. It's always got to come down. Right?
exactly. We're not looking forward to that part of the ride.
No, I know, man. Well, good luck to you, man. I love watching them
Thanks.
too.
Thanks.
So I've been doing some research on your company and what they've been doing, and you guys have really kind of built a concierge model that it's really not just about numbers. It's kind of helping owners, investors see clearly. It's kind of a unique bridge on, I don't know, due diligence and growth.
Yeah, that's exactly how we positioned ourselves in the market is lower middle market to lower end market, and helping business owners on the sell side get ready and make sure that they're prepared for all that's going to come at them during either a fundraise or a exit. And on the buy side, making sure that what an investor or a buyer is buying is what they're expecting, and then even post transaction helping them navigate the implementations and the transition period post transaction. So that's exactly what we do.
Right on, man. Super, super impressive. So here's the plan for today. We'll start with your story. What led you to build XY Links? And it's XY Links, right? Is
It's
that correct?
Xylinx. It's actually Xylinx,
Easy, done.
like a xylophone. Yep.
Right on, right on.
Yep.
So kind of dig into what's changing for CFOs and financial leaders right now, how they're rethinking board presentations, transparency, value creation post acquisition, and then we'll kind of wrap up, kind of looking forward and how AI and automation might be impacting due diligence and financial storytelling. About an hour or so. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
Right on. So let's just jump right into what originally pulled you into building Xylinx.
So I had done what I do for the previous probably 6 years. Had helped build one practice out in California. Was recruited to start another practice inside of a wealth management group. Did that for about 3 years, and then for a lot of different reasons, decided to go out on my own and start Xylinx. Allowed me to expand the services and also go, if you will, down lower market, and at the same time empower employees a little bit more and have a little bit more skin in the game. Some of the things that I would have wanted as I was an employee kind of change the culture there to be much more employee focused.
Right on. Was there a moment there that you realized kind of what was going on traditionally needed to change or what they were missing?
Yeah, so two things. One, I had seen this a lot in our industry in that they came to me and capped my compensation package, and I decided that's not a good way to grow a business if the top people have caps. So that's something that I eliminated in Xylinx. And then the other is just seeing the opportunity of smaller clients needing help. And while they can't afford a big price tag, there isn't as much value we're creating for that big price tag. There's ways of us still working with smaller clients that need our help, and we can still add value on certain things. So those are the two things that really got me going and thinking of starting it off. Being a good partner and leading companies that are even tiny.
So right on. So once you were focused on like those two things, in the early days when it first started, when Xilinx first started, was there a client story that made you say, I got it, hit it right on, or that kind of sticks out from when you started?
Yeah. So had a small client. They were looking to buy a $6 million business, and historically, the fee structure to do the due diligence around that would not have made sense. The fees would have been so high that there was no way we were going to add value. And what we did was we worked with that client and said, "Hey, these items, uh, these items that a lot of people are going to force on you during their due diligence, they're not going to really move the needle." The analogy I have is if you're buying a Maserati or race car, F1 race car, you're going to be looking at the tire tread. You're going to be looking at the pistons and making sure they're shooting off at the millisecond. You're going to be looking at the chassis. You're going to be looking at the paint. You're going to be looking at every nook and cranny, right? But if you're going to buy a 1995 Honda, you want to make sure that the tires are on there, right? Like if the tread is not as good, that's not going to really move the price point. So why are you going to pay me to look at the tread? Why are you going to pay me to make sure that the pistons are firing off at the millisecond? Pay me to make sure that the tires are there, that the car is going to get around the block, that the tires aren't going to fall off, that the wheels are working. Pay me to make sure that the pistons are firing off, that you're not going to need a new engine within the next 500 miles. Pay me to do those things. And because of that difference in service level, we can make the price a whole lot affordable to do that due diligence. So right away, he heard that story. Is like, that's exactly what we need. I don't want to pay $30,000. We'll pay you guys $10,000 to do that. And during that, the other thing that I kind of described about was expanding the services is during that due diligence, we're finding a lot of problems. In this case, we saw that the internal accountant was making about, or there was one salesperson and one accountant, and between the two of them, they were probably making about $300,000 above market, and that was based off of some historical things that doesn't make sense to go into here. But it was something that we were able to add value right away because we were like, hey, the seller doesn't realize that they're paying this much more in salary than they need to. That's an easy this is an easy $200,000 to $300,000 that you can chop off in expenses right away. And by being part of that team post transaction, he's like, hey, help me find the right person to replace them, help me put in the right um, accounting services in there and things of that nature. And that was a story that right away, we're working with a really small company, under $10 million in revenue. We're able to bring our fees down, add value right away, and the expansion. And right there, it was like clicking that here we go. And that person has referred us to others. He's used this again in other transactions. And so that's the story. When you ask me what the story is that clicks right away, that's the story that clicks right away of yep, we're in the right space. And hearing over and over again that there really isn't many companies that will go that low and be the quarterback for the entire process. They might be able to do one thing or the other, but to do that entire process with one company is rare unless you start looking at companies that are much bigger and charge a whole lot more than we do.
So you guys are able to open up the hood there and do a real detailed analysis, looking at everything under the hood with what you have to work with.
Exactly. And because we know what the buyers are going to do, because that was a buying story, the reputation has just grown that, okay, if these guys know what they're looking for on the buy side, I need someone looking for me on the sell side. Because if that person who was selling the company had hired us, we'd have said, hey, by the way, you're worth a whole lot more than you think you are because you're spending too much money on your payroll.
What yeah, expand on that a little bit if you could, like what details really go in that your team provides to be able to uncover those things at a fair price.
Sure. So, where we really find we can add a lot of value, we add value throughout the marketplace. We go up to $50 million in revenue and even higher. But in that lower than $15 million, there's a lot of accounting mistakes that are made, either internal accounting or CPAs that serve that. We find what we'll do is we will look at, is the revenue being recognized correctly? Is cash being recognized correctly? Are there expenses on the books that were only a one-time expense and should not be counted against the client? So we'll look at those just technical errors that could be in the accounting to make sure that we're discovering what the true P&L is of the company. But then at the same time, we'll start comparing these companies to others in the market and say, hey, why is your company spending more money here or not spending enough money here? Is this going to be a red flag to a buyer, or is this going to be something that you're just not accounting for correctly? It could be like like as an owner, you might not be paying yourself enough, and that's going to be a red flag, or it's going to be discovered during the transaction. So we will start comparing different metrics against competitors or in the same space to make sure that we're not missing something that is a little bit different than everybody else. You might have a secret sauce and like, hey, by the way, this is how we're able to spend less here or have better margins there. But we will dig into those things to see if we can discover items that the sellers or the buyer is not going to tell you that they're going to discover. So we will. That's how we look at. We're looking at making sure the bank accounts are matching the P&L and things of that nature. You'll be surprised how many times we'll discover some sort of fraud going on, or embezzlement inside the company. Discover that an accountant is just totally missing the ball on certain things. It is unusual for us to not add value compared to our price tag.
Right on, right on. Do you guys have the accountant playing in your office, the the movie The Accountant?
Oh, yeah. No, but that's the type of work that our accountants are doing. They're
Yeah,
trying to figure out, hey, well,
absolutely.
like you said that you're making your QuickBooks says you're making 8 million a year, but your bank account is only showing 5 million a year. What's going on there,
Right,
right? So
right,
that does happen.
right.
There,
Cool.
I mean, we have stories of will be hired on day one, and day two the CFO quits because they know that they're about to get
I,
discovered as
I can't.
for embezzlement.
I can imagine. I get chills just thinking about that. I mean, that's pretty intense. That's pretty
Yeah,
intense.
yeah.
It's a lot
So
of money that's moving around and just going out between 100 people's eyes, and that's really cool that you're providing that service, man. Super awesome.
yeah, thanks.
So from your vantage point that you talk with the CEOs and deal with them or CFOs, sorry, how how is the role evolving, especially with like boards and investors? Are they demanding more transparency or like a more clear narrative in what's going on?
So what we're seeing more is on on the buy from the buyer's standpoint is post transaction we're seeing more of the CFO get outsourced until you get to say $50 million of revenue. It can go down to just depends on how complex it is, but really the CFO role and the controller roles are being more and more outsourced. And The board is also required, and so that's the first part of your question. The second part of your question is the transparency. Um, Boards are looking for that transparency. They're needing that transparency. They're expecting financials to be delivered on time. They're expecting to be able to get on the phone with somebody and have answers when those financials are being presented. Um, it You always are going to want and need your CFO on those phone calls with the board. As the dollars get bigger and bigger, uh, the more transparency is needed. And what I'm seeing, the trend is that dollar amount is getting less and less. It's not getting more and more. It is, $10 million business being purchased, and they're expecting a CFO to be on the board call with those that invested the money.
So are CFOs more storytellers or strategists?
It's both. It really is both. The CFO needs to have the story because there's always going to be something that's going on in the business that is no business is perfect. Like you mentioned the football, right? It's always a roller coaster. Well, the roller coaster is quarter to quarter in a business, and some things might be going right. There's always something that is unusual. What's the story behind? Why did gross margins be cut uh, by 5% this quarter? And it could be like, hey, we had to dump a whole lot of old inventory, and the reason that we decided to dump this old inventory is, our head of design decided that this is out, and unless we want to just sit it on the shelf at 50% off, we got to dump it. And that story is around the whole perception of I don't want the designer. I don't want 50% off in my store because then there's a perception of A, I might not be as good as I think I am, and B, you don't want your buyers to wait until it gets to 50% off. So so that was the story behind the CFO having to tell that story. The strategic part is, hey, we want to grow in this new area. How are we going to do that? We want to improve sales on online sales, or we want a footprint in this part of New York. Is that going to make sense? What's it going to cost? What's the rollout of that? What's the ROI of that? So that's where that strategic piece of the CFO comes in. They work with the financial team. They're building the decks to show where the company is going to go forward. And that's where the strategic piece. So the CFO needs to be able to work with the accounting team in telling the story of what's happened, but also be a part of that future growth and how to get there.
Yeah, do you see them struggling with that balance of transparency and and control, or showing the full picture, without spooking people and the stakeholders? Or
There's a balance there where I think there's actually more of a problem is people trying to be both, or hiring the CFO to be both the accountant and the CFO. And the misconception is I need a outsourced CFO when they really need both an outsourced controller and an outsourced CFO. The controller is an accountant. They're going to make sure that the financials are correct. They're looking historically. They're going to make sure that you know what your cash flow is going to look like over the next month or so. And the CFO is there for planning purposes and answering questions and making sure that the financials they're talking to the controller and working on the story and making sure that the financials are correct. I think a lot of people they hire quote a CFO and what they really need is a controller, or they conflate the two and they end up spending more than they need to because a control you can get a controller for $100 an hour less than a CFO, and those are two different skill sets. You can find some people that can do both, but those are two different skill sets that you're going to want two different people at, especially depending on the size of the company as you grow.
Right on. And you're as far as so outsourcing or recruiting, um, in your due diligence work, is there an issue that you see that kills trust quickly between CFO boards and boards?
Yes, a story that recently happened. CFO's been shooting out for the last 3 quarters financials, and someone asked him questions about that. CFO says, "Hey, just I don't have that answer right off the top of my head, but I'll get back to you." 2 weeks later, answer's still not there. Um, that's then you start getting depending on what that question that question was more about. Hey, what's going on with the gross margin? It should have been a fairly easy question to answer um, within a couple days. 2 weeks later, that's now okay. What's going on here? They started digging and they started finding more things. It's the broken windows theory. If the window is broken, there's probably something else going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the easiest way to lose trust as a CFO is having a wrong answer or not being able to come with an answer in an amount of time that should be something easy. Because if you're not able to do the easy things, what like my 5 year plan, my big ask, the reason I'm hiring you at these big dollar amounts that CFOs get paid, are you even doing that right?
Yeah, it's almost like like the truth is. I mean, I guess I should ask you: do you see more the truth coming out from of the outsourced CFO rather than somebody who's tied into the company and maybe making wrong decisions, or do you see that there's a reason that that's why it's being outsourced because they're getting you know more true numbers, or is that
I see it
something?
both. I see it both. I mean, like the outsourced will discover those things because they have no say in the game. So especially if they know that they're only going to be there for a short time, like hey, it's a 3 month contract, 2 month contract, whatever it is. I'm just going to go find whatever I can find and play balls and strikes because I don't care because I'm not going to be here in 2 months, right? I'm going to just tell you what it is. Um, we see a lot of people that have hung a shingle and say that they're an outsourced CFO, outsourced controller, and they're a bookkeeper, right? So it's hard to say one or the other. The person that's more in bed, if they're making mistakes, we see this all the time when we're digging in. This was a mistake that was done 3 years ago, and they didn't have the courage to let their boss know that hey, I got to fix this, and it just starts just compounding over time. And now their CEO has been showing the board the wrong information. That's the easiest way to get fired. So we've seen it both um, from the outsourced people just not knowing what they're supposed to do in the first place, and internally with somebody making a mistake and then trying to like cover it up. So it's not one or the other.
What do you look for to prevent that from happening? Like before it becomes a red flag. Like what do you guys look for?
First thing we look at is the balance sheet because that's the easiest place to hide things. If you're reconciling your bank accounts like you should, um, then it, and they reconcile correctly, if the cash is matching the bank accounts, then the first place we'll look is the balance sheet and see what is in each account on that balance sheet, and does that tie out to some other kind of reconciliation, because that is by far the easiest place to dump things that a lot of people will not look. And it is something that if it gets dumped there, it could be there for years and years before someone discovers that it was dumped there, if you will. So we dig into that balance sheet the very first thing.
Right on. Right on. So if you were advising um, a CFO preparing for, say, a board meeting today, what's the strategy shift that they should make in how presenting these financials?
Making sure they're easy to read. Um, so know your industry, know what those KPIs, what are the big questions that are going to be asked. Um, and that's a conversation that if you're doing your, as a CFO, if you've done your homework or you have experience in the industry, you can have that honest conversation with the board, with the CEO. While a lot of those KPIs are the same within the industry, you never know what that particular CEO is going to be focused on. You don't know what the board is going to be focused on. So right away, find out what those things are so that your board deck, your summary sheet, they can just look at it right there. Okay, I see the most important things, and now let's go dig into the items that I have questions on. So it is really understanding what the board is looking, know your industry, what the KPIs generally are, but then have that conversation so that when you're in front of the board and they ask something that is important to them, you're not caught off guard and you're like, oh man, I spent all this time building this board deck that has no bearing on what you care about.
Is there a like a tactical framework or a template that you've seen work in there, turning any of the data into a really detailed, insight driven narrative for them to use?
Not so. I mean, each we work with a lot of different clients on helping build board decks or doing the board decks for them. And while we do have templates for each industry, again, we're having that conversation on what's really important to them. So it's really, hey, here are your top KPIs. Um, then underneath that is a lot of the data that's going to go underneath. So let's say you have four major KPIs that they're going to care about, and then it's behind that the next slides to that board deck. Hey, here's the breakout of how we came up with those answers. Here are the main drivers of those answers. Here are the things that changed from the last quarter that made the KPI change either positively or negatively, so that you're already building that story inside of the deck, to alleviate questions in the minds that are like, okay, I already see where this is going. It makes the conversation more meaningful. Um, we do have, like, because you've already answered that first level of questions, we do have some clients that want their board to have that the day before so that they can review it and have even more meaningful conversations rather than discovery, like, oh, here's the number, oh, what's that number. It's like they've already pre-looked at it. Other clients, they don't want to give that out because they don't want the board to come up with their own like misconceptions of what is about to be presented, whether that's positive or negative. Usually it's negative. What they're trying to do is control the story, and if I send out something with a big negative item on there, then it's already in there, oh, this company's a mess, blah blah blah. If you present it right there during it, you can control the narrative. So it's a mix between who like, so I know that kind of got off your topic of templates, but I think it kind of goes with the template of thinking ahead of time of how you want to have that conversation with your board on when do I give out the board materials, and but more importantly, have some story inside of those boards so you can help answer those questions. The one thing I would do is, unless somebody has specifically asked for something different from month to month or quarter to quarter, don't change it, because that will alert somebody that you might be hiding something. In other words, hey, you always send out the deck 2 days ahead of time. You always send out the deck a week ahead of time. You always send out the deck a day at a time. Why did you send this 1 hour ahead? Right? Were you not prepared? Which is fine. It can happen, right?
Mhm.
Hey, we had some problems with the financials and it took us this long. But it does alarm something if you are gonna, whatever you're gonna do, make it consistent, unless somebody has asked for, like, hey, can we change it up?
Does that hold true for like mid market firms? With the providing that same level of storytelling without needing a massive financial team. I mean, is that pretty true for mid market as well? Or
And what would you define mid market?
oh gosh,
Like, because we work mostly with up to 50 million, because after up to 50 million, they're asking a lot bigger firms than us.
so then it is. I mean, I would consider that mid market. So right,
Okay.
that's yeah. So that's pretty much not needing a massive financial team to put all that together. It's simple. I mean, not simple, but it,
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, under $50 million, your financial team can be fairly slim, for the most part. Like, we're working with one company that, they're a $60 million retail company. They have four accountants, and then they have us on, as a controller for 20 hours a month, and then a CFO for about 6 hours a month. So that kind of gives you the size, and that generally, I would say that's a very uh, templatized. That's where I would start. I think they're right in the box of that's where I start.
yeah.
Again, depending on the type of company, you might need more, you might need less. But I
Right.
think to give your listeners a view of, like, hey, when I'm this size, how many people do I generally need?
Right on. Yeah, I mean, getting into um, some with AI and automation, it's there's a lot of definitely a lot of change happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you see this AI revolution, automation reshaping financial due diligence?
So we get asked this a lot, and I think of it as a huge positive. If you think about the power of Excel, right? Due diligence was not invented in the year 2000 or 1998 or whenever Excel came out, right? They were doing it beforehand. It just allows you to get more insight faster, and you need people to interpret that. AI is just that next level, right? We see a lot of AI tools, some more powerful than others, some more expensive than others. In the sandbox that we play with, in the price range that our clients can afford, etc., it is a very helpful tool. We use it on almost all of our clients. It allows us to analyze and look at data a whole lot faster, and make sure that we're spending our time, on the red flags. They're usually not red flags, but yellow flags, if you will. Like, hey, this needs attention. This looks unusual. Um, this Here's a trend that you should be aware of. Um, Anybody that has used Chat GPT knows that you can put in some questions in there and get some really weird answers. So while it could get there, it's not to the point where you can just shoot information in and get the answer out. But there is definitely a use for AI to help you narrow in on things faster, right?
Right, right.
And that's what we're seeing. And I mean, it's going to, in the people that don't embrace it, that are scared of it, that try to push it away, they're going to be inefficient with their time. Just like my example with Excel. If you don't use, like, anybody that did, the last ones to adopt Excel to do due diligence, could you imagine trying to analyze a balance sheet without even Excel? You'd be forever. And so, that's where I see AI. It's a very powerful tool that as it improves, we continue to look at ways to use it ourselves.
So definitely embrace it. It's definitely going to make the job faster. able to do more in a shorter period of time and take care of other things that you need to focus on.
Yeah, and make the better use of your talent. So it'd be like if you have a CFO doing manual tasks, that person is not making the best use of their time. So
Mhm.
it is focusing us so we are making the best use of our time.
If you had one tool or one agent that um, that's gonna make a big change in financial function, was there one that you're working with or can think of?
There isn't one tool in. It's kind of funny. It is probably going to be an answer that you're not expecting. So we use AI in our management calls. So we do a lot of management calls and asking questions, and we actually use AI to analyze the conversation.
Sure.
Um, we use AI to help us go, hey, by the way, they said something about this, and we're not sure if it's conflicting to some other question that they have. We are using AI on those conversations, and we find that just as powerful as some of the data that some of the financial data that it's analyzing. So
Abs-
we're using like if you will, conversational AI
Sure.
to help us.
Yeah, yeah. Take the transcript, upload the transcript. Get the summary of it, figure out how the call went. I mean, it can absolutely. Nobody's taking notes anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
you
We
know,
don't take notes. We used to do transcripts. We used to do transcripts and then do a search and search for this word. Nope, they didn't use that word. Or they used that word 80 times during the conversation. Great. I now have to go look at 80 times that thing and see if any of them contradict
yeah,
or is this the right part of the Nope, that's not even the right. That's not even. So using AI to ask questions on this, or even compare conversations between other people in the industry. What did this other who else have we talked to about this situation in this industry? So that's where we're using AI. That probably saves us the most amount of time out of anything that we use AI for.
right on, right on. What's one unpopular opinion you hold about CFOs or financial leadership that might challenge the status quo?
I think it is people thinking that they need us. And it's the same. It's the two sides of the same coin. I need a CFO when they really don't need a CFO. They just need a controller. And then people saying that they're a CFO, like an outsourced CFO, and they really aren't. It is the buzzword. There's a lot of people that are selling services to help you sell that CFO. Hey, you're an accountant and you have X amount of clients. Just say that you're a CFO and you can charge three times more. It gives it irks me because we will run into clients that will do the due diligence and they inevitably get very upset that they thought that, hey, I paid this person, and there's a lot. I mean, most owners don't understand financials. That's why you're getting a CFO, and they see money in the bank. They know that they're profitable. Their CFO is telling them that this is how much they're profitable or whatnot, and then we come in and we're like, hey, by the way, that person was not doing a good job, and they get upset, and their first reaction is defensive, like, hey, we must be looking at it wrong, and then they come to realize, okay, maybe I hired the wrong person. So that is we see that way too much, and doing a little bit of due diligence on who you're hiring, whether or not you need a outsourced CFO or just a controller, and then doing a little bit of due diligence on who you're hiring besides someone just claiming to be a CFO.
What, and now on the CFO, what if you could wave a wand and change one outdated habit that a CFO has? What would that be?
One outdated, um, trying to do accounting. Like know where your worth is. A true CFO should not be doing accounting. They can help the accountants with how they want information presented, but at the pay rate that that a CFO is getting, they should not be doing any accounting. They should be telling other people. They should be telling other people how to build models. Maybe help a little bit with building the model, but they should be telling their analysts on how to build the model. They should be telling the accountants how to do their job, but they should be focused on analyzing data, focused on planning, focused on storytelling.
Right on. Well, Jeff, man, this has been a great conversation, man. It's really fantastic, dude. I Before we wrap, if listeners want to follow your work or connect with Xylinx, where should they go?
Sure. So our website is Xylinx, XYLINX LLC.com. So that's XylinxLLC.com. You can find all our services there. We focus on companies under 50 million. And again, we started Xylinx. One of the big reasons is helping those companies under $15 million in revenue that they need that help, but they can't afford it, and they'll find our pricing very effective.
Right on. Well, cool. Well, thanks again for joining, and it's been a great conversation. I'm sure it's going to give a lot of finance and go-to-market leaders a new lens on how to communicate value and lead with clarity.
Yeah.
We'll talk again.
Appreciate your time, Mark.
Okay.
All right. Bye.